Hey, folks, welcome to another edition of From the Bottom Up, where we take an album, take all their songs and rank them, and give them to you in the order of least favorite to favorite, worst to best, whatever way you want to call it. And today, wow, this one was a tough one. That's why I wanted to pick it because I knew it had so many great songs on it, and it would be a really hard one to do. And that's what we try to do is really make them hard on us. And these are the ones that usually turn out great. Today we've got the Beatles and Rubber Soul, which dates back to December 3rd, 1965. So this album has two different versions. We've got the UK version, which is the one we're going to rank here, and then we've got the US version. And there are some differences. The US version drops four songs off of it. So that's Drive My Car, Nowhere Man, What Goes On, and If I Needed Someone. But it does add two others to it that's not on the original UK version, and that's I've Just Seen a Face and It's Only Love. But when they remastered them all on CD, the US versions, they went with the UK version, which is what we usually go by when we rank them or judge them. So that's what we got here. So we're going to stick to that. We're going to rank all 14 tracks. The album, interestingly enough, recording took place in London over a 4 week period back in 1965, and they were rushing to get it out because they wanted it out before Christmas, and that's why it got released in early December. And that was following a U.S. tour they got off in the end of summer there, so they had to do a lot of writing in a short period of time. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off with our number 14. And that is going to be What Goes On. Uh, an earlier version of this song was actually attempted back in 1963, and it was reworked and given to Ringo Starr to sing, and that's the version we've got here. Number 13, The Word. One of the weakest songs on this record, I feel. It's justified where it landed. If you look at everything above it, it just can't compete with the likes of many of these songs, sadly enough. And number 12, we're going to shoot for, and that's I'm Looking Through You. And that's basically another song written by McCartney, which kind of focuses in on his relationship with actress Jane Asher and all the problems they had. And that's one of many that he wrote in that area there. So that's what we got for number 12. Number 11, the final track written for the album, and that's none other than Girl. A decent song. It's not bad, but it's just not anything, it's not going to beat any of these 10 remaining songs on this album. And interesting enough, this album actually really didn't have many singles released from it. Because remember, Drive My Car, Nowhere Man weren't even released on the US version. And it seemed like at this time, this is where they were really focusing in on the albums themselves. And it's amazing how well this album did with not a lot of songs that really just hit the mark there as being a single. You can imagine how many more copies they probably would have sold if it was an album full of singles. I can only imagine. But this is definitely one of the most solid albums they've ever written, recorded, and it's probably my favorite Beatles album, looking back on everything. So another reason why I did it. All right, so number 10. This is where we start getting into the good stuff here. We got Drive My Car, which we mentioned not on the North American version. Over time, this song has lost a little zest, and they got so many great songs, and I think over time you look through a band's history, and over a time period, a certain songs just kind of fall to the back burner, and then you start discovering more when you got a catalog of this magnitude. It's not no wonders. Interesting note on this song: the Kinks would actually reference this song on their 1994 song "Somebody Stole My Car." So I just throw that out there for you. Number nine, we got Michelle. And its beginnings trace back to the late 1950s, actually. They did a little work to it. Lennon added a new middle eight part, and Paul McCartney put down a bass line, which really brought the song to life. And it's one of the most recorded songs by other artists of the Beatles. You know, Yesterday's probably the one that always comes to mind as being the most recorded, but Michelle is right up there with it as being one of the most recorded Beatles songs in the history of music. So we got nine for Michelle. Number eight, the first of two George Harrison songs on the album, and this one is Think for Yourself. Another decent Harrison track that is not out of place on this album, I'd say. It had the working title initially of Won't Be There With You. And interesting, this song was knocked out in one take, so they did a great job on this, considering it's the only take that's out there. And I really like this song. Number seven, Run for Your Life. Yep, the album closer. Lennon retained a line from the Elvis Presley track, I'd rather see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man. So interesting how he kept that note in there, that line. Uh, it was actually the first song recorded for the album as well. Interesting note there. And number six, we got the second and the better of the two songs by George Harrison, and that's If I Needed Someone. You could really see Harrison's songwriting starting to come into its own as a couple more albums later is where he really hit his peak. But this song is definitely George in his infancy of songwriting, and man, he wrote some good ones, and this one is no slouch for sure. Number five, Wait, another Lennon song that catches your ear nicely. Uh, Really good song, and kind of one of the more underrated tracks of the Beatles catalog, in my estimation. I definitely like that one. But that's what we got at number five. Number four, we're going to go with Good Old Nowhere Man. And this song basically is Lennon was having difficulty writing, but once he got the lyric, the song came together as a pivotal song for the band. And he admitted years later it was pretty much about himself at the time. So, he put a lot of himself in that song, no doubt about it, but definitely one of the standouts of the catalog. That's one of the one songs that everybody always refers where they felt the Beatles really started to show some growth in their songwriting, and that song definitely has it right here. Number three. All right, so we're getting down to the top three on this Rubber Soul album. Number three is the classic song "You Won't See Me," written by McCartney, and it's another song that reflects about the difficulties with his relationship with Jane Asher. And just love this song. This has definitely always been one of my favorites on all the Beatles catalogs. I would probably say it probably ranks in the top 20 songs of all time out of my Beatles collection here. And that's what I got for number three. Number two, this song always seems to be mentioned in the top 10 Beatles songs of all time, and it kind of hides on the album, interestingly enough. We are talking about, of course, In My Life, another Lennon song that he considered to be his first major song that he had written. The other songs, he didn't really consider them, his pinnacle. But when he wrote this song, this is when he started going, yeah, this is a great song. He knew he hit a home run on this one, and no doubt, this is one of those songs that I think that has grown over time to be many of the fans' favorite Beatles song of all time, and can see why. It's just a great song, and yeah, just great. Can't say enough about it. Number one, of course, that leaves us the last one here, so you should know what it is if you have the album and you know it, and that's gonna be Norwegian Wood. The classic Lennon song is no doubt the best on the album. Song is known for its subject matter of an extramarital affair that he kind of hid from his wife at the time. Also notable for the first time George Harrison would use and record with a sitar. This song, when I first heard it, Man, this is what really opened my eyes to the Beatles. Wasn't exactly, having a lot of love for the Beatles like many seem to do, but this is a song that pointed me in the direction and wanted me to really start discovering their catalog. Because, obviously you heard all the regular traditional songs, that you always hear on the radio and everything, but I wasn't really into the Beatles too much. I would say up till I was about 25. But after 25, when I heard this song and You Gotta Hide Your Love Away, they just kind of woke me up and turned me on to the Beatles and wanted me to, find out more about them and dig into their discography. And man, I'm so glad that I did, man. What a great group, many spectacular songs. So just to give it a quick rundown here on the final take here for Rubber Soul, we got number 14, What Goes On. Number 13, The Word. Number 12, I'm Looking Through You. Number 11, Girl. 10, Drive My Car. 9, Michelle. 8, Think for Yourself. 7, Run for Your Life. 6, If I Needed Someone. 5, Wait. Number 4, Where Nowhere Man. Number 3, You Won't See Me. Number 2, In My Life. Number 1, Norwegian Wood. And that concludes Rubber Soul by the Beatles. Stay tuned for much more on From the Bottom Up.